Okay, so hello. All right, so I have the group, I have the page. Hopefully you guys can see me. Let me turn this a little bit. So I'll just look both ways so you guys can see me. All right, hey page people. I am on with the group as well. We have a couple topics to talk about today. I haven't been on live because actually today we're going to talk about why I have not been on live as much as I normally am. Okay, so I think that's going to be an important topic to, to discuss, okay, of why am I not going live as much, and, what I'm doing right now to make a lot of changes, okay? So I'm like getting comfortable here on my couch. All right, so here's what we're going to talk about today. The first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about planning, all right? So both here page and here group, we're going to talk about planning and taking time for you. This is wrapping around to the IEP, so you want to hear this. The next thing we're going to talk about is accepting that none of us are perfect, all right? And we have to learn that in order to move forward in the IEP process, all right? And then the third thing we're going to talk about is probably one of the things that you guys really want to hear about, which is the top 3 hardest things to get your child, even though we clearly know that they need it, all right? And why the school systems fight it and balk it. And it's one of those things where you have to kind of get in your brain, okay, if I have to go all the way, I have to go all the way, right? All right, so if you are new to my page or my group, post a 1 below. 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live. Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Okay, so if you're an oldie but goodie, a 2 below. If you are new, a 1 below. Let me know that you can hear me. All right, and we'll go from there. I have no idea when I'm on Facebook how I can see comments from people. So if you guys have made comments, I have no idea how to see it. I have no clue. I wish I did, which is why I'm going to not use Facebook to stream that much any longer. But if you guys are saying hi, I want you guys to know I'm saying hi back, okay? But I have no idea why it's not showing me comments. All right, so over here on the page, nobody is typing. Okay, so here's the deal. This is what we're going to talk about today. I'm trying to cross my legs. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Raven Woods. I'm the CEO and founder of Autism Mama Rocks the IEP. I don't know why it's so dark on this different computer. I am, I'm so lost. Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm the founder of Autism Mama Rocks the IEP, and I help parents gain the knowledge and the confidence when I'm not crazy to become the CEO of their IEP meeting. Okay, so in all due respect, we're going to talk about planning. All right, so in my PPPN system, it's plan, prepare, present, persuade, and negotiate, my trademark system, okay, that I teach in my course. The important part of that is the planning process, all right? Believe it or not. You need to take the time for you, and you need to take time, which is why I've taken a step back a little bit, if you will, to just get a grasp on how I want to take this year. Last year was so crazy that this year I have to have that balance, just like we all do in our lives. And this is going to transfer into your IEP process, I promise you. So hear me out here, okay? It's really, really, really important to have that balance in your life, okay? When I was going through hell with my daughter's IEP, and it was just a huge stress, it took over my whole life. And my other 2 children, suffered because of it, because I was so solely focused on Skylar and her education and what it is that she needed and all of the things that needed to go into place, right? Everything is crazy when it comes to the IEP and, trying to figure out what to do and try to figure out all the, the laws and what IDEA means and what FAPE is and how to prove if the school's not providing FAPE to your child and, all of these things. And if you don't plan, all right, the right way, all right, and take the time for you to really process these things and also have that balance, things are going to be off, off kilter. And I promise you that you are going to swipe left. What do you mean? Let me see. No, it'll say end video is what it said. So I don't know. He's trying to help me over here on the group so I could see everybody. Let me see. All right. I don't know. So weird. I don't get it. So if anybody knows how to do this whole, see if people are talking on the group, let me know. But I'm not ignoring you guys. I just really cannot see your comments at all. So maybe nobody's talking. I don't know that either. So it says 2 comments. Let me see. I don't know. I can't worry about this stuff right now. I'm getting a different program so that I can see everywhere. Just because I like that much better. Being able to see everything. So I apologize. So I'm not talking to you guys over on the group. Okay. So it's important to have that balance. It's important to understand that you have to take time for you. You have to have balance in your life, and you cannot let the IEP process take over your whole life like I did years ago. All right. And you can't allow it to make you obsess, because you're actually going to suck in your IEP meeting if you do that. That's just plain and simple. That's what happened to me. And I had to learn all these processes. I had to learn all the things that I should and shouldn't have done. I had to learn all of these things and, from scratch. It's like, when you're baking something, you're baking a cake and you have to, start from, and you're making a cake from scratch, trying to figure out, how to make it work so that it tastes amazing, and if that process isn't followed, what happens? It doesn't taste as good. And so it's the same thing with the IEP. If you don't plan and you don't prepare and you don't take time for you and have that balance so that you go into it with a clear mind, it's going to be very difficult. Hi, Kim. Hi, Claudia, Yana, Kelly. Yeah, definitely share this over on the page, and you guys over on the group. I'm so sorry. This is my older computer, and so it's, the lighting is all jacked up. So what's really important with that is just making sure, I don't know about you, but I know for me, it's really hard to have balance. I want to try to help everybody. And last year, being as crazy as it was, it burnt me out, And so what I'm trying to do this year is to, have that balance, give, my clients, the time and attention that they need, which I did do last year, but I made myself batshit crazy doing it. And, making sure that everything aligns and everything's put together and everything is, where it needs to be, how it needs to be, and that these IEPs get on point. Because right now, I'm going to tell you, a lot of IEPs and IEP meetings are going horrible, which leads me to the next topic that we're going to talk about. So for those of you just joining, my name is Raven Woods. I'm the CEO and founder of Autism Mama Rocks IEP, and I help parents like you, grandparents, caregivers, become the CEO of their IEP meetings. So this is my group over here. They have really bad lighting. I'm really sorry about that. I will fix it. And over here is the page. So welcome. Post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live. Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. I cannot see any comments over here on the group for some crazy reason. If you want to hop over to the page, feel free. If not, I will be able to see them later, or actually I can even pull them up on my phone. So how about I do that? So here's the deal. Leading into the next thing, which is acceptance that none of us are perfect. Okay, so number 1, accept yourself. All right, none of us are perfect. Realizing that even the school systems are not perfect, right? And then understanding the fact that, it does not have to interfere with your IEP. Okay, oh, you didn't go to college. You don't have an education. You feel like you failed your child. You have a history or a background. You got a DUI in high school. All these different things that we have in our life that make us, hopefully, who we are today, are not important. If you learn from them, awesome, move on. Okay? Don't let anybody hold you back. Don't let anybody use those things against you as if you are a bad person, or you should have that balance that everybody seems to, have, or that person seems to have, right? You don't want to compare yourself to other people, all right? Don't compare IEPs. Your IEPs have nothing to do with each other. Your kids are nothing alike. They may have one quality that's like, oh yeah, my child does that too. But guess what? They may not do it in school. Or, oh yeah, my child's like that as well. Oh, they started walking at 14 months, 12 months, 9 months, whatever. We have all these things that us as parents talk about. And I realize that, because I hear parents now, back in the day when I had my kids, a little bit different. But it's funny because, all these different things that people talk about is comparison. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to compare yourself to other people in who you are, how you do things, how you raise your kids, how you go into IEP meetings, if you have a background, if you don't have a background, if you've made mistakes, if you haven't made mistakes, whatever the case may be. All right. All of this is really important with the IEP process. All right. Because believe it or not, school districts try to find shit on parents. All right. And yet they're living this fantasy world of illegal activity that they are really projecting onto our children, right? Okay. The activity at FAPE is legal. It's a legal document, that IEP. So if they're not providing FAPE, that is illegal, right? But they will, in a hot step and a jump, go over and say, oh, we found out XYZ about you. I had them do this to a parent of mine, and I just was flabbergasted. I'm thinking to myself, shit, I don't have a perfect background. I mean, what the heck, who's perfect? What does that have to do with the IEP or getting the child what they need? It was just weird, But what is unfortunate is the acts in which school districts will allow themselves to do, how they will portray themselves, and the to the extent of making your life hell. One of the things that I tell people all the time is I'm no miracle worker. I'm not perfect. Never, ever, ever will claim to be. And am I a good advocate? Absolutely. Have I, been doing this and have been at this for 15 years? Yes. But does that make everything that I say or do happen at the snap of a hat? No. So if I can't do it after 15 years, or there's other advocates that I connect with, the good ones, so far I've only met 3, but I guess I should say good ones as in, are go-getters like myself. Maybe I should say it like that. I've had a lot of parents, come to me and say, because there are a lot of advocates out there and people who are kind and want to help, parents and are, parents themselves. And but they're just not in alignment with the legalities and the in-depth process of the IEP. So they're going into meetings and not saying much, not talking much. Parents are like, well, what did I hire you for? These type of things, but I don't think it's intentional. I think they're trying their best and they're trying to do what they want to do to help your child, but the learning process is still going on. So I have, 3 other advocates I always, bounce things off of. And, if I find other advocates that are amazing, then I will connect with them too. And, we're actually going to have an advocate circle, if you will. I'm bringing them on live this year. And we're going to all chit chat, one's in California, one's in Texas, we all work in all different states. And there's no competition whatsoever, guys, because there are too many of you and we can't keep up. So it's one of those things where it's like, there is no competition, with advocates. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, because, there's so few of us, believe it or not, and so many of you. And to even try to, so if you ever find an advocate that's not like, talks negative about another advocate, nix them, because, they shouldn't. There shouldn't be a competition, okay? That's just a 411 about advocates, all right? Oh, who's the best, Bill? So this is moving me on to the third thing. So number 1, planning and taking care of you, having that balance, all right? My PPPN system that I teach in my big course, Autism Mama Rocks the IEP, or really I call it Rock the IEP, which takes you from beginning to end of the IEP process. Does it teach you how to walk into that meeting and own it? No, but I try. It's very hard to teach, okay, walk into the meeting and own it. What I teach you is the whole process and the outline of the IEP. So as you go, hi Tess, how are you? I had my 3rd and last surgery, long story, and so I am still healing. I've put it out there this whole year. I've gone through 3 surgeries this year. I am fine. I am perfectly healthy, but it's something that had to be done. And so I am just, bouncing back, but it's the last one, thank God. And, I'll be ready to go for IEPs come the end of this month. And, things are already getting crazy. Just so you guys know, over here on the group, I am sorry. I cannot see your comments. I hate using Facebook Live. I'm changing it. I'm going to be going live a lot more over here on the group. And I'm actually going to be getting together in the next 3 months, a membership site for you guys. And then I'm also getting together and a plan of dates of when we're doing live Q&As on Zoom face-to-face. So that's what you guys get to look forward to. So over on the page, if you guys aren't part of the group, I am going to be starting in the next 2 weeks a Q&A where I will be going live sometimes, and then I will also be face-to-face on Zoom where you guys, or live like this, and then face-to-face on Zoom so that you guys can see me. All right. So yeah, thanks Erin for posting the course link. Yeah, if you guys are wanting to know the process and get to know the process, definitely grab the course. You guys want a payment plan, there's payment plans available, all that kind of stuff. But it's a great course and it really teaches you the whole process, because you guys know about me and my Google PhD, right? That got me all of nowhere. It got me a lot of information. It gave me a lot of, I love Q&As. And I'm also going to post over here on the group a Q&A post where to say post a lot of your questions below so that I have them in my hand when I go live or when we're face to face, so I can start answering them, and then it'll go a lot quicker and more effective, So definitely do that as well. All right, so here's the third thing. All right, so you know how I said planning, taking care of you, having that balance, right? That was number 1. Number 2, accepting that none of us are perfect, knowing that the school will come after you. All right, You hear of the schools doing truancy charges on parents. You hear of, the schools doing, calling CPS on parents. You have schools, they do so many different screwed up things when we are actually simply, usually at a start, when you start asking questions. When you start asking questions, when you start, pushing and saying something's not right here, they then start their process. Sometimes it's not as, aggressive as, it can get, but it's there. All right. I have parents who have done nothing. CPS is there for a reason. Okay. I hopefully, people call them if it's needed, but like to call CPS on a parent out of vindictiveness because you're pissed off that they're starting to ask questions, that they're realizing that the school system's not doing something right, or that their child needs something more, etc., is messed up. But they do it, So I want you to know that you need to accept who you are. Be confident in that. If you screwed up big time in your past, if you didn't go to college and they talked to you in a condescending way, all of these different things, leave it be. Don't let them get to you. All right? That condescending tone, overcome it. Rise above it. All right? If you need to set it straight, which is one thing that I do, and I will say, you need to stop this. This attitude is ridiculous. This is childish and immature. You guys talking to each other, online, and I'm sitting here looking at you, and I can see it, and you're just sitting there, talking negative, and we can't hear you. Is not okay. It's not okay that you're doing that and acting like a child on recording. I don't understand. Why are you acting like that? And usually they'll straighten up. But the fact that they do that is ridiculous, isn't it? It's very frustrating. All right? But you have got to be okay with you. Stop feeling like failures. Stop feeling, those feelings of, I wish I knew more, or I'm still learning, or, I wish, I do pretty well in the IEP, but, they're just not listening to me. I'm asking for this, this, and this, and they're not giving it to me. CPS and I are friends because of the school, as in the town sheriffs. That's funny. So it's frustrating. And I'll tell you, moving on to the third thing, the most frustrating thing for me. The 3 hardest things to get for your child, even though it's clear that they need it. I was talking to some parents yesterday, and this is a situation and why I say I am not perfect. I will never say that because, the thing is anybody that says, oh yeah, they can always get something done is not being honest with you, or transparent. Do I get it done? Do I make sure that, the child gets what they need? Yes. But the parent in certain situations, not all and very few, to be quite honest, have to be willing to go all the way. All right? And that is several IEP meetings, doesn't work, mediation, due process, etc. Does it usually get all the way to due process? Usually not, but it does at time. And you have to be willing to go all the way. I found it enlightening that, a lot of the attorneys that show up at my IEP meetings, they watch me and they've made comments about, my lives, and have offered children certain things based on things I've said in my lives. It's kind of interesting. I find that great. I think attorneys can be really great. I don't believe that their place is in the IEP, but I do understand how the school districts don't want to take me on and they want to have their attorneys with them. I get it. I'm not offended by that. However, attorneys need to shut up in the IEP meeting. It's not their place. OSEP, is really against it, and they're not part of the team. So anytime that an attorney is involved in an IEP meeting, it can become contentious, but it also can be a good thing depending on how good the attorney is. So if you have a really good attorney in the IEP meeting that's, a school-based attorney, they know their place. There's one, that I'm dealing with, in Tennessee, and he and I wouldn't edit online, emailing each other. But you know what? In IEP meeting, there's that mutual respect. I get he's doing what he's doing, I'm doing what I'm doing. But in all honesty, we have actually said, oh, well, he makes a good point. Or I've said that. And he's said, well, Raven makes a really good point there. Let's talk about that, because at the end of the day, it should be about the child. And even if attorneys are involved in an IEP meeting, supporting their client, the school district, they should still be human and know that advocate is there simply. I'm sorry, guys. Skylar's home, so it's going to get loud for a second. So everybody's excited that Skylar's home, so give it like 2 minutes and it'll calm down. Rocco. I'm so sorry, guys. So Sky is getting ready to walk in the door from school. She's got her mask on. Sky, hurry! She's coming. Rocco. Okay. So anyway, guys, she's getting ready to walk in the door now. Hey, Sky. Dogs are going crazy because you're home. Okay. So, moving forward, don't be intimidated by attorneys. There are jerks. I am. There are jerks. And there are decent attorneys. I find that it is interesting when they are there. I have an IEP meeting coming up, and there's going to be 2 attorneys there. And doesn't that make you think, okay, I'm one advocate. I'm an advocate. All right? Most advocates know a lot more than attorneys in regards to the IEP, because that's where they are every day. What's up, Sky? Yes, go let him out. So that is important to know for everybody out there. No, we're not letting him outside, Skylar. You're being really loud. Do not open that door. All right, you're not doing the treadmill. All right. Well, so basically, I will not punish my child just because I'm online. But okay, sure. So here's the thing, Skylar, Mom's live.
I'm sorry, I will take it back.
Okay. So moving forward, the interest. What?
Intake book so loud.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take a seat.
Okay. One of the things that I found interesting, and tell me if I'm wrong, okay? Guys, again, over here on the page, I'm sorry, I cannot see anything that you're writing. Here, let me pull it up. Maybe I can see it. Okay, here we go. All right, there we go. There's 3 comments. All right, so hi Marlene, how are you? Hi Dawn. Okay, hey Hannah. Okay, so I see everybody starting to post now. I can see your stuff from my phone now, okay? So that's a good thing. Yay! But on this stupid computer, I can't see it. And it's such a different, like if you guys go to the page, you'll see that there's such a difference in lighting because this is my older computer. Okay, so moving forward, I found it interesting how there is 2 attorneys coming to this IEP meeting. And again, I'm used to attorneys coming to IEP meetings. But 2, it's a little weird. And it makes me think in my head, okay, like I was just saying, I am just one advocate. Do most advocates know a little bit more than attorneys in regards to the IEP process stuff? Yes, because they're not in IEPs all the time. They're litigation, they're due process, they're all of that stuff, So it's one of those things where everybody has a place, and typically it's not the attorney's place in the IEP. So for two attorneys to be there to take me on, I don't know, maybe to make me feel intimidated, hasn't happened yet. Maybe I'll feel that way 2 days beforehand. Just kidding. But it makes them look bad, not anybody else. Parents worry, oh my gosh, there's going to be two attorneys now. Mom, and dad messaged me, there's going to be two attorneys there now. And I'm thinking in my head, yeah, isn't that weird? What did they do wrong that they have to have two attorneys there? That's how you guys got to start thinking about things. Is if a school district is going to try and intimidate you, or or have to bring in another attorney because of things being so difficult, what did that school district do? What are they hiding? Start asking yourself those questions. All right? Figure out what happened there, But one thing that I have started doing this year is working with the attorneys more and the school district and saying, look, we don't have to like each other. But at the end of the day, I'm here specifically for the child, not the parent, not the school, not the attorney, not anybody but the child, and getting them what they need. Which leads me to what are the 3 hardest things in an IEP meeting, or in general in special education, to get. All right. And that is number 1, a one-on-one. Okay. Number 2, specified reading intervention, I will say. And focused on the student for a period of time because of them being so behind. Number 3, all right? And when I say read, not just reading, that can be math, that can be being taken out of the classroom for resource. All that is under that umbrella, all right? So it can be, a specific reading. So I should say 4, because it's a specific reading program, a one-on-one, being taken out for any type of resource, math, one-to-one reading, whatever, writing, etc. And then additional services. Okay? So let's start with number 1. All right, a one-to-one. This is so difficult, especially right now, and it was already difficult before, because teachers and attendants and one-on-ones, para-educators, etc., are not at schools anymore. They don't want to be there. They were overworked, and then COVID stuff and all this kind of stuff happened, and it is what it is. So the lack of people, all right? Number 2, they like to serve multiple, they call them groups. We'll talk about that in another live. We'll just put them in a group and help them socialize. I can't tell you how many times I want to call bullshit on that, because a group is not going to work unless that group of people, children, students, are pretty much the same. That each child is pretty much on the same grade level. Each child pretty much has the same disposition, all right? Maybe not behavior issues, just learning disability. You have to be able to focus solely on how to put that group together in order for it to work. But school districts, we want to do the group, we want to integrate them into the classroom, which leads me to the one-on-ones, being in the classrooms, being there to help multiple children. Problem is, when you have a child that does not have multiple behavior issues, but has learning issues, focus issues, all of those types of things, and you're trying to address things and help them, and things are not working out, and they're having to deal with this child over here, and then this child over here is doing this, and you have all this stuff going on. How are you serving anybody? You have one child, jumping off a vent. This recently happened, okay? He got on top of the vent at school, and he was jumping off the vent. And then you have where there's other children that are physical, or have a lot of behavior issues, so they need time and attention. Then you have children that have more of the learning issues that don't have so much of the behavior issues, right? So you have this same thing with the groups, right? Doesn't this kind of align with each other? You have all this stuff going on, maybe say 2 or 3 paras. How is each child going to get that individual help? How is each child's needs going to be served in a way in which is going to allow them to make progress? It's not going to happen. So when you are looking at needing a one-on-one, one of the first things you have to ask yourself is, does your child really need a one-on-one? And I'm being serious here. I'm calling y'all out. Does your child really need a one-on-one, or do they just need that extra, help or time and attention where a para can be with them or work with them an extra 15 minutes, 20 minutes, help them with an organizational binder, whatever the case may be. All right? Really try to think about that. I know as a parent that's difficult. All right? But really try to think, does your child really need that one-to-one, that person right by their side 24/7? Or does your child need someone just during transitions? Or does your child need a one-to-one just during math or reading, because that's when they start acting up, or during a certain time of day for like an hour or 2 or whatever, because of things that are going on, or just different types of things, or maybe even just at lunch because of the sensory issues, to help them, acclimate, to help them, socialize, to initiate. I loved how my daughter's one-on-one used to help initiate conversation with the gen ed children. I thought that was great. Start asking questions, guys. Feel free. I know it's early. So for like California people, it's like 2:00 or something. But yeah, just keep asking questions. And I see people coming on the group. So hello, I can see you guys on my phone. I can't see you on this stupid Facebook Live. I'm switching programs so I can do it all in one place. But it's hard because groups are like a specified entity from Facebook, so it's hard. All right. I'm going to try to see with different lighting, because this lighting over here on the group, if you guys have seen, like this is my newer computer and this is my older one. I mean, the lighting's horrible. So again, I apologize, guys. Maybe what we'll do is we'll transfer over and share this page one with the group. Maybe we can do that, right, Aaron? So one-on-ones are hard, but for parents, we want that one-on-one. We want our child to have that one-on-one. We just want that one-on-one. All right? We just want someone with our child. We want them to have the best, and that's just what we want. But I'm asking you to really look at if your child really needs a one-on-one all day. Okay? Once you figure that out, all right, and you're really honest with yourself, and you find out, okay, my child only needs 2 hours. My child only needs 1 hour. My child only needs 4 hours. Whatever my child needs all day. Then you have got to be able to prove why. All right? And that can be progress is non-existent. School districts are wanting to fight this. All right? But you have to be willing to be persistent and take it all the way. All right, but you have to be real with yourself, because if your child does not need a one-on-one, someone by their side 24/7, then be real with yourself as to when it's really necessary and fight for that. Okay? Number 2, specified reading program 1-to-1. That is hard. All right? Even for me. Do I do it? Yep, I do. Even now, New York is a pain in my ass right now, but you know what? It doesn't matter. It's gonna be done. And guess what? They agreed to it. And, we're having to resubmit a request for due process because New York's a pain in the ass. They have their own laws and rules like California. And it's interesting because they like to make things difficult, just like California does. As we all know, those are 2 states that like to do what they want to do when they want to do it, and that's that. So knowing to be persistent, and if you really know in your gut that it's the right thing for that child, do not stop fighting. Do not. All right? Thank you. You do not want to stop fighting. All right? So that's important. The next thing is, when you're fighting for a reading program, you need to know what you're fighting for. Okay? You can't just say, oh, my child needs an hour of direct reading instruction every day. Well, they just may, because they're behind in reading and they need the reading intervention, and what they're doing in the classroom is not working. Okay. Typically, everybody will agree to that part. Now, having a one-to-one, direct one-to-one instruction is hard to get versus like, oh, can't they just do group? Don't you think that would be better? Da, da, da. But getting the one-to-one of reading is not as hard as what type of reading instruction is going to be given. That's a hard one. So again, another fight. Then, and these are things that I'm dealing with parents right now. And they're not a one and done. You've heard me talk about one and dones. Do they get done? Yes. But does it happen right away? No. Okay? So you have to understand that it's something that is going to come, but is not going to just happen right away. All right? They're not just going to hand it to you on a silver platter. All right? The next thing is, when you want a specific reading, say, methodology, which is really not, ideal. The most ideal is, having, a reading intervention program. To me, the number one thing is who's doing it. Is the teacher teaching it? What teacher's teaching it? Is it a reading specialist? Is it someone certified in Orton Gillingham or whatever? Who's teaching it? Because believe it or not, teachers can make or break it. And if you have a really good teacher, that's amazing. And over the decades, if you will, beliefs about the right way to teach reading has really vacillated widely, I guess I should say. And, we've gone to like this rigid, scripted phonics approach to more interest in children getting joy out of reading. And it's really important to have an approach that, or not have an approach that really overemphasizes something, but does overemphasize literacy, but not neglect certain areas. And that's the problem with certain approaches in reading, all right, is that, you can't avoid one area of literacy over another. You can't avoid phonemic awareness because you're wanting to focus on phonics. You know, you can't ignore vocabulary because you want to deal with comprehension. Do you know what I mean? So that's important to understand. So the next thing is, so we hit on, you know, the one-to-one. We hit on the reading and getting that reading instruction, right? Can a parent ask for a special ed child to be retained in a grade? Of course. Let's say my child's in first grade. We just did that. I just did that, you know, just, 2 weeks ago, right, Yana? And yes, you can hold your child back. My child was on regular school with special kids, a mix of grades, and it wasn't working. It wasn't too advanced for him, so they switched him to special ed school where all kids in his class are nonverbal and very behind my child's level. So what do I do next? I haven't found the right school for him. All right, let me get through this, and then we're going to address that, okay? Do I say it Yamlet Garcia? Hopefully I'm saying that right. To tear over here on the group, yes, you can hold your child back. That's actually pretty easy, believe it or not. They'll act like, oh, it's this big deal. Oh, we got to address it now, right? And, you know, it's, we got to get this done. We got to get this done. And, you know, all this stupid stuff, you know, and make you feel like, oh, can I hold my child back? Do I have that choice? Or don't fall for that shit. All right. Don't fall for it. All right. They make you feel so intimidated and like shit. It really bothers me because I feel like parents are, you know, not everybody's like me. You know, I actually can be pretty abrasive, and, you know, my husband's home now, so it might get loud. And, you know, that's not always a good thing. I will admit that. I own it. You know, I'm always a work in progress. Aren't we all, right? But, you know, like this parent said, Tier, Yana, we just held her child back. And it was super easy, but she was saying until I came into the picture, they fought her the whole time, you know, and she's wanted to hold her child back. So sometimes it does take bringing someone else on. Sometimes it is a fight. Sometimes unless you know, crack it down, it has to happen. So, you know, it's one of those things. Yeah, but it's not if the parent's requesting it. They're not going against the No Child Left Behind Act, because if a parent's requesting it, it's different than if the school system says, oh, we're holding your child back, and the parents are like, no, you're not, you know. So it became this whole argument of, you know, almost like you're pulling on a rope. One person's pulling one way, one person's pulling another, and there's no coming together. And the school district's just saying, you know, this is what we're doing, and you just have to accept it. And that's where the No Child Left Behind Act kind of, in so many words, okay, I'm not reading the act itself. In so many words, it's kind of how it came about. But it's definitely not about, you know, if a parent wants to hold their child back, unless there's some sort of neglect going on from a parent where they're wanting to hold their kid back 3-4 years, you know, or it's just, you know, the child's old enough to where it just doesn't really make sense anymore. And I'm always, you know, if your child's in elementary school, I think that's the best time to hold your child back versus when they're older, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, you never know. It can be something that has to happen in later times, you know? So it, you know, it just depends on each situation. I believe it gives children the ability to have more time to catch up, and not feel certain ways, you know, when moved on to the next grade level. We're kind of getting off track here, but moving on to the next grade level when they're not ready. So it's kind of too loud, please. So that's what I would suggest is, you know, really base it on a situation dependent on where you're at that time. And, go from there. So moving back to the third thing. And that was, what was it? Reading instruction, right? 1-to-1. So, okay, getting your child pulled out for resource. So getting your child pulled out for resource for any type of 1-to-1 or even small group, which small group is decent. My kid does better in summer school. Well, I don't know what summer school is, Bill, because special ed kids don't go to summer school. But so basically, if you are wanting your child taken out of the classroom, all right, say they're in gen ed, all right, and you're wanting to take them out of the classroom because they're not doing well in math and reading. That's like the key thing, so let's just talk about math and reading. And then you are saying, hey, I want my child to have direct instruction, all right, which is direct instruction can be small group or it can be, 1-to-1. So you have to specify that. So if you're saying direct instruction and you're wanting 1-to-1, you need to say 1-to-1. If you're wanting direct instruction and that can be up to, a certain amount of children, then you need to say that too, all right? And if you're okay with group, then you are okay with saying, I only want that group to be up to 5-6 kids or 6 kids, and that includes my own, or whatever the case may be. It really just depends on the student and what the student needs. If a child is struggling, what makes me crazy is when you take, and you guys know this, a lot of you know me, is when you take a child who's in, say, 7th, 8th grade, or any grade really, that is 3rd grade and above, and they are on a, say you're saying 7th, 8th grade, and then they're on a 3rd, 4th grade level. What is it that they're doing other than being with like peers in a gen ed setting learning 7th, 8th grade work? If you can answer that, I'm with you. But I don't think you can. And the reason why is because tell me how that logically makes sense. The school districts will argue the fact, oh, well, we have to, a lot of their wording is different, but I would say the main thing that they will say is we need to introduce them to age appropriate grade level material. Okay, well, my child's on a 3rd grade level and they're in 7th grade, so what the hell's the point? Why are you wasting your time? Makes no sense. You have to meet a child where they are, and this is how you fight for your resource room direct instruction, whether that is, your hi Viviana, how are you? Whether that's your 1-to-1 or if that's your group instruction, whatever it is, you need to have your reason and be able to support it. And that's where I'm finding that a lot of my parents, who are super smart, by the way, and know their stuff, but they are just struggling with, how do I support this? How do I make sure that this happens? A lot of school districts are bringing in their attorneys because they are being asked so many different things that children are needing. They're being asked for so much that they're tapping out. They're not knowing what else to do. And so the fight just becomes even more enhanced. And so does that mean that you give up and you just say, oh, okay, there's nothing more that I can do? Or does that mean that you have to fight? And I don't say, we're going to argue in the meeting, or we're going to, all these other things. You're fighting for your damn child. Let's just call it what it is. Sorry about that. I was pulling my leg down. Let's just call it what it is. Oh, we're not fighting, we're talking, we're collaborating. No, we're not. We're fighting for this shit. All right, for our kids, because you guys are being assholes. All right, and the words come out of my mouth like that when I've had it. These are things that really pluck my nerves. How do you put a child in a gen ed classroom, which they should be incorporated and acclimated and integrated into the gen ed classroom, but not in math and reading? If that's where they're struggling, they need to be in the gen ed classroom and then pulled out to resource for math and reading so that they can get the help that they need, so they can then transfer that back to the gen ed classroom and feel a part of. Because one thing that I feel that a lot of parents, even myself in the past, have neglected is we don't look at that mental aspect. We look at, my child's not doing well, my child doesn't have, good grades, my child, does not have the ability to comprehend, because, I hear all the time, oh, my child can read, but they can't comprehend anything. Your child can't read. Okay? And the school system is, they will trick you like you wouldn't believe. Your child can read. They're reading beautifully. And you're thinking, this is awesome. My child's reading great. You're reading with your child maybe, and you're seeing that your child's reading great. But the problem is that they're not comprehending anything that they read. So I'm sending all my clients to Linda Mood Bell for their evaluation. And that's where we're really finding out these surprising things. Let's just put it like that. And parents are in shock at, where their children really are, because they thought all along that, my child's reading beautifully. And this is hard, It's hard to digest. It's hard to understand. It's hard to realize that, you have been fooled. That's not a good feeling. And it sucks, right? And we just have to figure out what needs to be done in order for your child to be in the gen ed setting, but be pulled out for those specific areas of struggle and need. And if they need one-to-one, that is where a fight's going to happen. And, not so much, okay, the group being pulled out and being in a group. It's the one-to-one. Because the ability to provide people is the struggle, right? So these are issues that are happening a lot. Let's move on to the fourth one, because I said 3, but we're making it 4. And these are all things I have gotten done, okay? Has it been hard? Let me tell you something, all right? I'm just going to be very honest with you. It has been the hardest thing I have done. The hardest thing. Because it's a fight. It is persistence. It is headache. It is, a lot of talking with parents, a lot of, outside evaluations. It's very difficult. Am I getting it done? Yeah, thank God. But I am very particular about the IEP. It's a legal document. I go page by page. I nitpick every last damn thing. And I want it done. I want it done right. So if it takes 3, 4, 5 IEPs for them to get it right, isn't that worth it? It's worth it. Because cleaning up a mess is not worth it. You got to start from scratch. You got to get those evaluations, those baselines, those, knowing exactly where that child is in order to move forward. in order to move to a place where you know where that child is. I can't tell you how many parents I've come in contact with, and they know it. They know. They've admitted. They don't deny it. I didn't know. I did not know is what I hear. And guess what? I'm with you. I didn't know either. That's why I'm here teaching you now, because I didn't know either. I failed my child. And that is the worst feeling ever. And I was tricked. It took years for me, 6.5 to be exact, as many of you know. And the trickery and will say one thing straight to your face. This is what happened to me. And it was a complete lie. And I believed it. The worst feeling for a parent, right? To feel that feeling, all right? I'm getting uncomfortable because that, like I said, I had my last surgery, so I'm like, fidgety. That feeling of any parent feeling as if because they didn't know something, failed their child. I know what that feels like. And it sucks. And to allow school systems to continue doing that is no longer on my books. I will tell you straight up, don't hire me if you're willing to allow them to just take over, say what they want to say, not provide your child what they need, deny services that we all know that child needs, and you just accept what they're just going to give because you feel that's all that they're going to give and it's not worth the fight. I'm not the advocate for you. And that's where number one came in to what we talked about today, is that balance of me taking on things this year and being very adamant about having that balance and having the ability to really fight those fights. And because last year I had a winning year. I mean, it was awesome. There was only three cases out of 296 meetings that didn't go as planned, but then it eventually kind of came around, that were a struggle for me. But they did eventually come around. Out of 296, not too bad. And I want this year to be successful as well. And so I've taken a step back, and I've realized that I have to be and have that balance, which is very difficult for me because I want to help everybody. I do have, 3 spots coming open come mid-October. People have asked me that, so I do have 3 spots coming open in October. Because I had surgery, I'm making things up like the very end of September, beginning October. Bring it. Bring your case, and, let's get the IEPs on point. But like I was saying, leading back to that balance, when you are fighting for your child, which leads to this last 4th area, right? Which is services. All right. They're supposed to, but the fight is unreal. But I will stand up and fight. It's awesome. Tess is, I hate the school district, how they act, they lie. Yashonda says, my son has a teacher that doesn't teach him, but at him. What do you mean, but at him, Yashonda? Yana says, it's perplexing how my oldest daughter's teacher, who had no problem reading and didn't need to be held back, her 1st grade teacher wanted to hold her back, and when it's special needs child, they fight you. Yeah. So moving on to the fourth thing. We made a fourth one, right? While we were on here today. Services. That parent I was telling you about that I was talking to you last night has a child that is nonverbal. And the school system wants to fight. I have another client that has a child that's nonverbal. And the school system wants to fight. Oh, we'll give your child, 1 time a week speech, 3 times a month. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, my child is fully verbal, all right? But she still needs speech. And she gets 2 hours a week. So I don't understand why other school systems want to fight this. If a child needs speech is not, they can just say words out of their mouth. Speech is, are they able to have dialogue? Do they speak well? Does the words and how they sound come out appropriately? Do they have receptive language? Do they have expressive language? Pragmatics. There's so much to speech, and that is a struggle. OT is the other one. All right. OT and speech. Oh, well, we'll just walk into the classroom and we'll, integrate writing. My son's teacher that doesn't teach to him, but at him. Okay. Okay. I was already there. Okay. I hear you, Yashonda. He teaches at him. He doesn't make sure. Okay. I got you. Yeah, it's kind of someone speaking at you instead of to you, right? The other thing with services, and I'll be damned, both of these parents are getting what they need. I don't give a shit, both are areas of I can go to due process with them, and I would bring on attorneys in those areas that I've connected with because I'm not putting up with it. Not doing it. You do not do that to a child. And the school won't win. They will not win. I don't know why they even think they will.
Stop standing on the side.
That's what doesn't make sense to me. Is, if a child's nonverbal, you're not going to get away with giving them 3 times a month of speech. You're not. You're not going to get away with it. So you can say, oh, this is what the school system's going to offer. Oh, this is what the school system's going to do. I mean, I have one school system said, we don't have enough data. Nonverbal child, but we don't have enough data. What the hell kind of data you need? How are you going to get that data? Child can't talk. What you going to do? How you going to get it? What data do you need? And these are educators that, I'm going to get off here in a second because I've been talking a long time. And I have some really good stuff for you for tomorrow. But, what data do they want? And I'm all about data. But if you have a nonverbal child, you got educators saying, oh, we don't have enough data. Y'all are on the wrong job. Profession. We have a lot of things wrong with this system. People are worried about gas going up and all these other things. And I'm like sitting here. Do people realize how screwed up the educational system is? Let me tell you what happened the other day. Before my surgery, I had surgery on the 9th. The IEP was on the 8th. And this is what's happening. So any speech therapist, occupational therapist, teacher that's on here, do not think that I'm against you. Let me explain myself. I know for a fact that you're told not to say anything in IEP meetings. I know for a fact that you're told to say the bare minimum in IEP meetings. I know for a fact that your jobs have been put on the line because you've said too much or you are told not to say anything in the IEP meeting, and if you do, these things can happen. I know this. This is service providers and your teachers. In the past 2 months, I would say, I've run into this issue, which is why I say attorneys don't belong in IEPs, but if they do, they need to shut the hell up. Speak only when necessary for their client, but understand they're not part of that meeting or the team. An occupational therapist, and this is a problem I've run into. The schools are wanting their administration to do a lot of the talking. And so the teachers and the service providers aren't talking a whole lot because they're told to shut up. And how are you hearing about your child? How are you hearing about what's going on? I mean, the administrators don't work with your child. Why are they running their mouths? Why are they talking? Sure, keep your flow of your IEP meeting, but don't talk. What are you talking for? You don't work with this child, right? And, you know, one of the things I'm going to be putting into play is I'm not putting up with that anymore. The IEP meeting is where you are supposed to find out about your child. This has happened in the last 2 months more so. It's not something that's been ongoing. And no. Those meetings are being recorded. If I have to send that recording to the state, letting them know that the administrators are not allowing the teachers and service providers to talk, we're going to have a problem. Or we'll go straight to mediation, and then you'll have to shut up. Not doing that anymore. This speech therapist on the 8th that I was going to tell you about, she said the child needed twice a week. The child needs more than this, all right? But we were going to put an amendment in place until the evaluations were going to be done, okay? So instead of the 3 times a month or whatever, it was going to go to 2 times a week, right? Individual one-to-one. And that's what the speech therapist said. Thank God I got this on recording. Then the attorney pipes up and says, what do you know, and just interrupts, and then kind of takes the speech therapist back, and you could tell she was like kind of thrown. And then all of a sudden it comes down to 1 time a week. Of course, that was questioned. Of course, that was, talked about, etc. But I shut my mouth because I'm waiting on the evaluations. I know the evaluations are going to be crap. And if the school doesn't do evaluations with fidelity, guess what? We're getting an IEE. And so you have to understand this process. That's what my course is about, is understanding this process, this tedious, lengthy, pain in the ass of a process. And knowing that you got to follow it through to the end, because if you don't, your IEP won't be on point. Your present levels are going to be non-existent. You won't have a baseline to go by. You won't know what goals to create for your child because you don't have a baseline. And goals are pulled out the air. Don't allow school districts to send you a draft and you think that that's what's set in stone. It's not. It's not what's set in stone. But you need to find out, where did that come from? No, you don't, Tess. But you have to be careful of the wording in a mediation document, a settlement agreement. It's an agreement that you're agreeing to. And you have to watch that wording, because that trickery really goes into play. Hey guys. You know? All right, so let me go back. Well, feel free to call me, Shonda. But I can't wait to tell you guys about this IEP with the 2 attorneys. That's going to be interesting. Because the one attorney, she's a bulldozer. You know? What do you need backup for, girl? Whatever. Yeah, true, Bill. He said 95% of parents don't fail their children. But that's how we feel. Right? Oh, Shonda, that sucks about the RBT. And yes, Tess, I hear you. So, Jessica, my son started kindergarten, and I'm going back to the questions I said I'd answer before I hop off here. My son started kindergarten, and he's having a lot of challenges, behaviors, and that he doesn't have it at home. What can be helpful to add to the IEP? Well, you need to have an FBA done. So, a functional behavior analysis where they do a full evaluation, preferably with a BCBA. But if you, what state are you in, Jessica? But one thing that I'll tell you is if they do a FBA with like the psychologist or whatever, and you're not happy with it, just ask for an IEE. That's what I do. And get a BCBA, because then they can't control that. And once the FBA is done, then let's talk. All right, so message me. I'll post the WhatsApp information, or if Erin's on here, she can post the WhatsApp information, and then you can get in touch with me and we'll talk. So Yashonda, and you can, connect with me, Jessica, and we'll talk and we'll move forward. But you need to get that FBA first, because I like to have my data before I give direct responses. But I hear you. And children do that all the time, right? Act different with mom than dad, and act different at home than at school, etc. But something's sending them off in school, and you need to find out what. And the way to do that is through an FBA. All right, so Yamlet, you said my child was on I'm guessing you're saying in a regular school with special ed kids, a mixed grades, and it wasn't working. So they switched him to another school where kids in his class are nonverbal and very behind where your child is. So now your child's in a school that isn't really appropriate. Am I reading that right? So number one, you need to get in touch with me too, so we can chat more and I can find out more of what's going on. Hi Gina, how are you? And hey everybody here on the group. Marlene, Hussein, all right. And I told you, Terry, you can have them retained. So, yeah, we need to talk, Yamlet. But the main thing is you need to get your child out of that school. If that school's not appropriate, the school district can't kick your kid out and just send them to another school. They can't do that without your permission. So you must have agreed to it. No offense. It can be fixed. But something they said to you, something made you believe that this needed to happen, and that's where we need to figure it out. All right? And if it's not the right school, we need to get them out of there. Because if it's all nonverbal kids and your child's verbal, that's going to hold your child back. Okay? Yeah, I think it was just posted how to reach me on WhatsApp. So grab that link, connect with me. All you do is download it on your app store. Doesn't matter what kind of phone you have. Then click the link. All right, you sign up through Facebook or your email. Doesn't matter. I say email because Facebook can be funny, but do what you want. All right. So Yamlet, yes, get in touch with me. Yeah, no idea what District 75 was, and they said today they're gonna try another class. Right, but you can't just like transfer placement like that, Amlet. You know what I mean? They're like transferring schools, placement, all this stuff. You know, there's going to be repercussions to all this with your child. Either education and progress isn't going to be made, behaviors are going to start. There's all these different aspects to what they're doing here. We need to figure out what's going to be the right place instead of just bouncing them around like a ball, you know? Ruby, I have an IEP meeting Friday for my daughter. This will be the 4th week without reading support, which is in her IEP. OCR complaint, girlfriend. She's in 8th grade on a 4th grade leading. Ugh. Girl, give me a call if you need something. I always say this is my favorite area, but oh my God, it's become the area of like hell. Literally. Literally. Message me though. The 4th week where they haven't done reading support. Is that like 1-to-1 or something? All right, guys, I've been on here like over an hour, so I think we've had a long chat. Maybe I made up for, the couple of days I haven't been on, the week or so. Tomorrow we're going to talk about some important things about reading. Me and reading. I'm actually going to talk about Fontes and Pinnell, one of the program that failed my child along with the school and more. You're going to be surprised what I have to say. Fontes and Pinnell, reading, tips, tricks, and the bullshit. So, and it's a lot about Fontes and Pinnell, the program my child was on. I think you're going to be very surprised at what I have to say. But we will be talking about that tomorrow. And I want to do my coffee and chat tomorrow. But let's see. Let's play it by ear. I'll post it tonight if I'm going to do it. It will be Eastern Standard Time. I will be in my pajamas. You guys can be in your pajamas. You can be getting ready for work. You could be just waking up in bed and listening. But the fun part about it is just come join me for coffee and chit chat. It's kind of it's a Q&A. It's a Q&A. So I'm thinking about doing that tomorrow. But I need you guys to join the group. So put in your search bar over here on the page. You need to join over here on the group. Put in your search bar, Autism Mama Rocks the IEP group. Join the group. We will add you tonight. Okay, if not first thing in the morning. And get over there on the group. That's where I do my Q&As. I do not typically do Q&As over here on the page. All right, I like doing it on the group. It's been a long time, guys. I know, I'm sorry. And I took a break over the summer, so I was apologizing because it's been, I had to take a break from last year. I got burnt out. It was literally, I had 2, sometimes 3 IEPs in a day. I was burnt out. So this year I'm not going to do that to myself. But, and I will let you know when I have time. And I'm taking on more clients and all of that stuff. Contact me anytime on WhatsApp. And, I have different things that I offer, that I do, that I provide. My IEP package is the most popular. And we'll figure it out. Okay? I just know that this year I cannot aim to help the world because I'm only one person. But like I said, I am going to be getting together with some parents, grandparents like yourselves. And I've said, message me if you're interested in becoming an advocate and learning the process. Because I'd like to expand to different states. And really get as many of you out there that are wanting to do this as a job, and help parents and children get what they need, if that's something that you're able to do, at this time. And, go from there, because, we've got to take a stand. It's not about, I had to say to a school district the other day, this isn't about winning. This isn't about Raven just being a bitch. Excuse my language. This is about getting kids what they need. If you want to fight it, don't expect me to just lay down and say okay. That won't ever happen. So expect a challenge, but be adults, school systems, attorneys. Put your big pants on, and handle it as an adult, not children. That would be ideal, instead of acting like children and playing games and, all those other things that you do that are very childish. We're adults here. We're talking about a child here. What's frustrating to me is when you have attorneys that do support the school system. I get it. If someone murdered somebody and you're representing them, they're just your client. Okay, cool, whatever. But it's like, when you're talking about a child and their education and you're supporting the school system and they're fucking up, that's fine. Be their attorney. But if you're a parent, how do you sleep with yourself? I guess gotta handle that, right? I can't handle all of that. It's not my place. I posted a post on Instagram the other day, and I'm posting it up here on the page, and I'll post it on the group too. And it's about, all I want is the Toyota. I don't want the Lexus or the Cadillac. That's it. But I'll tell you, I got a Toyota, and I love that damn Camry. Runs really good. It's amazing. I love it. It's such a good car. And that's how it has to be looked at. Okay. So we're not looking for the best of the best. Or at least I'm not. Okay? I'm pretty reasonable with that stuff. That's why I will fight. Because I don't ask for things that really aren't necessary or above and beyond, if you will. It has to be needed and appropriate. And it has to be something that's going to help them make progress. And that I will fight for. Okay? So I'm going to wrap it up. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. I will post tonight if I'm going to do the coffee and chat in the morning. It will be early. No makeup. Okay? Pajamas. Alright? Unless I'm in a meeting and dressed appropriately. I'm an advocate that I like to be comfortable. Alright? So, you guys gotta, you got your advocates who dress up and wear their suits and, all that kind of stuff. Not me. I'm all about, it's what you're about, what you do, and actions speak louder than words kind of person. Not so much, oh, I'm going to look like this so that I can present myself like this. And you don't want to do that. All right? You don't want to do that as a parent, as a person, as a professional. You want to be who you are and, let the rest take its course. So I'm going to get off here, guys. I will talk to you soon. See you tomorrow. Most likely a coffee and chat Q&A tomorrow over on the group. So you guys got to join Autism Mom Rocks IEP group. If you're watching the replay, welcome. Hello. And I will talk to you guys soon. All right. So have a great evening.